Argentina's President Javier Milei is meeting Donald Trump in Washington today, just days after the U.S. agreed to provide him with a $20 billion economic lifeline. Milei is under political pressure back home amid rising unemployment and corruption allegations. He came to power promising to stabilize the economy, but his free market reforms recently hit a roadblock after his party lost a key election and the Argentine peso plunged. The Trump administration has now agreed to buy $20 billion in Argentine currency to avert a financial crisis. Well, the U.S. president was asked by reporters if the bailout can be seen as support for Milei and his party in the upcoming midterms, and this is what he had to say.
And, you know, our approvals are somewhat subject to who wins the election, because if a socialist, or in the case of New York City, a communist wins, you feel a lot differently about making an investment. I think, Scott, you'd feel that if somebody that had no chance, in other words, if somebody wins and has no chance of ever having a great economy because of that philosophy, you would put a halt to what we're doing.
Joining me now from Buenos Aires is Marcelo Garcia. He's a political analyst and risk consultant. Marcelo, welcome to DW. Tell me, what does this $20 billion lifeline really mean for Argentina's economy?
Hi, Nicole. Thanks for having me. It means a lot. I mean, until now, Milei's economic program has not been sustainable. And it was about to crash right before the midterm elections. So the lifeline from the Trump administration wins Milei some time, both to save face in the election and to correct course as he enters the second half of his term and he begins to eye re-election in 27.
These important elections are coming up. How is this bailout then being received by the Argentine public? Help in time of need or foreign interference?
Well, you know, Argentina is divided, as most of the world, and Milei is a very divisive figure. Nationalism is still a factor in Argentina and in Latin America in general. There's always been an anti-US sentiment. Just to give you an example, Peronism, the main opposition to Milei, was born 80 years ago on an anti-US platform. So I think Argentines would rather have a government that can sort things out without major foreign help or interference, but they will appreciate the help as the better outcome compared to our currency crisis.
What's in it for the U.S.? What interests are at play for them here?
Well, we are seeing in Trump 2.0, we are seeing a U.S. that is more involved in the region than we have seen in many, many decades. I think the Chinese factor, I mean, going back to what we call the Monroe Doctrine, in which Washington believes its backyard should be controlled by Washington. So I think in a way, Milei is a lead case in terms of how to try to steer the governments in the region to a more pro-Washington, pro-market and pro-Western investment attitude. That's basically what it is. Apart from an ideological standpoint in which Trump believes that Milei is very much aligned at a personal level with him. And as we know, Trump is very transactional at a personal level too.
To what extent could this backfire? What risks does this bailout pose for both countries?
Well, last week, the Treasury, the U.S. Treasury bought Argentine pesos at a moment in which there's a government shutdown in the U.S. If in the next few weeks, Argentina has to devalue its currency, then the U.S. taxpayers will have lost money. That is for the U.S. And from the Argentine perspective, the risk is to rest on this new inflow of U.S. dollars and avoid correcting the economic program and face the same problem a few months from now.
So essentially kicking the ball down the hall. Argentinians will head to the polls later this month. How important will the outcome of the midterms be for Argentina's long-term economic stability?
It is very important because Milei is running the country with a very thin minority in Congress. So he needs to strengthen that position to be more powerful in the second half of his term and continue to pass reform. It is not, though, a matter of life or death. I think what is more important is how Milei reacts after the vote, whatever the outcome of the election, and whether he understands he has a problem and that is why he had to go to the US and the IMF first as well for a bailout, and correct course before it is too late.
There's political analyst Marcelo Garcia in Buenos Aires. Thank you so much, Marcelo.
Thank you very much.
Let's discuss this further and bring in DW correspondents Misha Komodowski in Washington and Alejandro Rebosio in Buenos Aires, who have been following the story for us. Let's start with you, Misha. President Trump recently called Javier Milei his favorite president. Are we seeing a deepening of the personal and political alliance between the two leaders with this meeting, and what exactly are they going to be talking about?
Well, it does seem like their bond is growing stronger, both personally and politically. President Trump's meeting with his Argentinian counterpart, whom you're right, he's called his favorite president, shows just how much the two have in common. This meeting takes place in the cabinet room, not in the Oval Office, and Milei is known for his bold style, his push to cut government spending, and his anti-establishment message, all things Trump truly admires. And when asked what message he had for the people of Argentina, Trump said, "We love them, we are here for them, they have a great leader." The meeting is expected to focus on economic ties and regional politics. You're right, it comes just after the White House approved a $20 billion bailout for Argentina and shortly before key midterm elections there. So the United States is directly buying pesos as part of this deal. And let me quote here, the U.S. Treasury is prepared immediately to take whatever exceptional measures are warranted to provide stability to markets. That's what Secretary Scott Bessent said on this matter on X. Argentina, as you said, is experiencing a severe liquidity crisis with its currency tumbling amid public loss of confidence, rapid depletion of foreign reserves, and fears of a broader financial collapse.
Let's take a closer look at that with Alejandro. How critical is this $20 billion lifeline for Argentina and Milei's government?
Not only the $20 billion swap line, but also the decision of the U.S. Treasury to buy Argentine pesos at the foreign exchange market in Argentina is helping Milei's government before the midterms elections of October 26th. The peso has appreciated in the last days after some weeks of turbulence. Also, the Argentinian stocks and bonds has rebound. But the question is the medium-term effect. This help from the states is ensure Argentina to pay to the bondholders next year, but there are doubts about devaluation of the peso after the elections.
Misha, why did the U.S. decide to bail out Argentina with such a massive support package? What does Washington stand to gain from this deal?
That's a good question. The U.S. bailout of Argentina is more than just a financial package. It is a play to reinforce the leadership of the United States in the region and push back against China's growing footprint in Latin America. So it helps prop up President Milei, a close Trump ally, ahead of legislative elections there, supporting his pro-market reforms and potentially ensuring continued alignment with the United States' interests. The rescue package also comes at a time of a government shutdown here in the U.S., and notably, like during the domestic economic stress, which leads to criticisms here in Washington that the White House is currently acting for overseas interests over domestic needs. That's something that MAGA movement supporters have been opposing very sharply.
Alejandro, how is this meeting being received in Argentina? You mentioned it earlier, midterm elections are just around the corner.
Well, there are different interpretations of this help from Mr. Trump to Mr. Milei in Argentina's society. The government think that this will help the Libertarian Party in the next elections because the first world economy is helping Argentina. But at the same time, there are a lot of people in Argentina with an anti-American feeling, and this helped also sparked a discussion about sovereignty and what is going to ask Mr. Trump to Argentina in return of this help.
DW correspondents Alejandro Rebosio in Buenos Aires and Misha Komodowski in Washington. Great to speak to both of you tonight. Thanks so much.